The day we gathered for Grandma's while reading, her old Victorian house seemed to breathe with memories. The wraparound porch, the rose bushes she planted decades ago, even the lace curtains filtering September sunlight, all of it felt alive with her presence. And yet, there was a tension in the air that clung to the walls thicker than dust. I could still smell cinnamon rolls, her signature scent, though no oven had been lit since her funeral. It was as if the house itself refused to let her go. I adjusted the dress she always loved on me, the one with tiny daisies she said made me look like sunshine. I knew Veronica would sneer at it, but that didn't matter. Grandma would have approved. The living room had been transformed into a courtroom of sorts. Extra chairs were lined in a semicircle, all facing the fireplace where Mr. Brennan, Grandma's trusted lawyer, stood with a leather folder and his laptop. Every relative seemed to have claimed a position like vultures circling a prize. Uncle Robert sprawled in the best armchair as if it were already his wife glued to her phone, probably rehearsing how she'd boast online about her family fortune. My brother Wesley leaned casually against the wall, but his restless artist's eyes couldn't hide the way he was already calculating values, paintings, furniture, antiques. And then there was Veronica. Perfectly polished, draped in a designer suit, tapping manicured nails against her Louis Vuitton purse. She wore the air of entitlement like perfume. Everyone knew she was Grandma's supposed favorite, the golden child who drove a Tesla, lived in a high-rise, and loved reminding the rest of us of our lesser lives. When the lawyer cleared his throat, the room froze. "Before we begin," he said, sliding his glasses up the bridge of his nose, "Mrs. Chin wanted me to remind you all that she loved each and every one of you, despite your flaws. Despite your flaws." The words hung like smoke, ignored by most in the room too busy waiting to hear what their pockets might gain. But I saw it, the small smirk tugging at the corner of Mr. Brennan's mouth. That's when Veronica stood. Her voice cut through the air like a knife. "She doesn't deserve a penny," she declared, pointing directly at me. "Grandma may have been old and soft, but she wouldn't truly want her money wasted on someone who barely scrapes by teaching kids their ABCs. I felt heat rush to my face. I wanted to shrink, but my mother's hand squeezed mine with quiet strength. Wesley muttered for me to ignore her. But my cousin wasn't finished. She was basking in her performance, sure that Grandma's wealth was hers to inherit. Then Mr. Brennan opened his laptop. "I think," he said calmly, "we should let your grandmother speak for herself." She anticipated complications. The room shifted uneasily. No one expected more than the dry reading of a will. But Grandma had planned something else entirely. The screen lit up, and suddenly her voice filled the room, steady, warm, but edged with iron. "If you're hearing this," she said, "it means I've left you not only my love, but a lesson." Gasps rippled through the family. "Even from beyond the grave," she commanded us. Her recorded words grew sharper. "Some of you think you deserve more than others. Some of you have already taken what was not yours to take." Veronica stiffened. Her hand instinctively rose to the pearl necklace around her throat, the very one that had mysteriously disappeared from Grandma's collection before her death. The lawyer clicked, and photographs appeared on the screen. Surveillance shots. Documents. Bank transfers. Each image stripped away Veronica's perfect mask. Grandma had known, and she had prepared. Every stolen jewel, every loan never repaid, every manipulation exposed in front of the entire family. The silence was deafening. My cousin's face drained of color, her arrogance shriveling as proof after proof piled up. Grandma's voice returned, calm but merciless. "To those who betray family for greed, I leave nothing but shame. To those who stood by me, who cared without asking for reward, I leave everything I own, because love is the only wealth that grows when shared." Tears blurred my eyes as Mr. Brennan read the final clause. The house, the savings, the bakery's antique recipes, all left in my name. Veronica collapsed into her chair, silent for once. Uncle Robert muttered under his breath. Priscilla stopped typing on her phone. Revenge. That's what it was, though Grandma would never have called it that. She had orchestrated justice with the precision of a baker perfecting her final recipe, sweet, sharp, unforgettable. And sitting there, surrounded by stunned silence, I realized the truth. She hadn't just left me an inheritance, she had left me her strength, her cunning, her unshakable ability to remind people that betrayal has a price. Grandma didn't just punish Veronica. She made sure the whole family understood, you can't steal from someone who sees further than you ever will. Her final gift wasn't money or property. It was the most brilliant revenge I'd ever witnessed, one that would haunt Veronica every time she looked in the mirror at that necklace, knowing the whole family knew exactly who she was. And I smiled through my tears. Because in the end, Grandma hadn't lost a single thing. She'd simply waited for the perfect moment to win. The silence after Grandma's words was unbearable. It pressed against the walls, thick and suffocating, like the house itself was holding its breath. Everyone stared at Veronica. For once, she didn't have a clever retort or smug smirk ready. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Her carefully painted confidence had cracked. Uncle Robert coughed awkwardly, but his eyes betrayed satisfaction. He'd always resented Veronica's arrogance, though he was greedy in his own right. Well, he muttered, looks like the golden child wasn't so golden after all. Priscilla, who had spent the entire meeting glued to her phone, suddenly found her courage. She leaned forward, her voice sharp. You mean to tell us, she said, glaring at Veronica, that while we were grieving, you were pawning Grandma's jewelry? Posting about family loyalty online while stealing behind her back. All eyes shifted again, and Veronica flinched. Her hand clutched the pearl necklace tighter, as if it could shield her. Those were gifts, she spat, her voice trembling. Grandma wanted me to have them. She told me herself. But Mr. Brennan's calm voice cut her off. Mrs. Chin anticipated that claim as well. He tapped his laptop, and the video resumed. On screen, Grandma's face softened, but her words carried a final edge. Veronica, my dear. I know you. You've always mistaken charm for honesty, and taking for earning. No, I did not gift you those jewels. And yes, I knew you would try to say otherwise. So, consider this my answer. You may keep the pearls, but they will weigh heavier on your neck each time you wear them. A thief can polish gold, but she cannot wash her hands of shame. The room erupted. Wesley chuckled under his breath, his laughter contagious in its relief. My mother, usually the peacekeeper, shook her head with a sad kind of disappointment. Even Uncle Robert smirked openly, though his turn at judgment might come someday. Veronica's cheeks burned crimson. She tore the necklace from her throat and threw it onto the table with a clatter. Fine. If you all want to believe her little games, go ahead. Enjoy your charity. Her voice cracked on the last word. But the damage was done. The family's eyes no longer saw her as polished or superior. They saw her as exposed, stripped bare of every lie she had spun. As Mr. Brennan closed the laptop, the firelight flickered across the room, throwing shadows that seemed almost alive. For a moment, I could swear I saw Grandma herself standing there in the glow, watching, satisfied, her eyes twinkling the way they did whenever her cakes came out perfectly risen. The inheritance was mine, yes. But more than that, Grandma had given me something priceless. She had shifted the balance of our family forever. No one would ever look at Veronica the same way again. No one would forget the lesson. And I realized something else. Grandma hadn't only been thinking about punishing Veronica. She'd been protecting me. She knew I'd walk into that room as the weakest, the underestimated teacher with nothing flashy to show for her life. She made sure I would walk out with not just her estate, but with the undeniable truth that loyalty and love matter more than wealth. That was her revenge, not cruel, not petty, but perfect. Because Veronica lost everything she valued in one afternoon, her reputation, her standing, her untouchable image. And I, the cousin she mocked, inherited everything she never could, dignity, honor, and the last laugh. As the family dispersed in whispers and sideways glances, I stayed a moment longer in the living room. The cinnamon scent lingered in the air, wrapping me like a final embrace. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered. And somewhere, I swear I heard her laugh, soft, triumphant, and free. The fallout didn't end that afternoon. In fact, it had only begun. Word travels fast in small towns, especially when it's about scandal. By the end of the week, Whispers about Veronica's disgrace reached her colleagues, her clients, even her so-called friends in the city. Nobody wanted to buy a house from the real estate agent caught stealing from her grandmother's estate. Deals she had been bragging about for months suddenly evaporated. Contracts were canceled. Calls went unanswered. She had spent years building her image, perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect success, but Grandma had stripped it all away in a single video. And the town relished it. For once, the golden child wasn't shining. She was tarnished, and everyone could see it. At the bakery downtown, where people still remembered Grandma's cinnamon rolls, I overheard conversations. Can you believe it? Stealing from her own grandmother. Shows you money doesn't buy character. I always knew that girl was too polished to be real. Veronica's name, once spoken with envy, was now dragged through flour and sugar and coffee steam, reduced to a cautionary tale told between sips. Meanwhile, my life changed in quiet but powerful ways. Grandma's house became mine, every room a reminder of the Sundays we'd spent together. Her rose bushes bloomed brighter than ever, as if fed by justice itself. The bakery recipes she left behind gave me a new purpose. I started baking on weekends, sharing her bread and cinnamon rolls with my students and neighbors. For the first time, people didn't just see me as the teacher, they saw me as the granddaughter Grandma trusted most. But Veronica, she spiraled. She tried to fight back at first, calling everyone liars, claiming the footage was fake. But Mr. Brennan had airtight evidence, and every denial only made her look more desperate. Her high-rise friends stopped inviting her to rooftop parties. Her Tesla sat unsold in her garage because nobody in town wanted to be associated with her name. One afternoon, weeks later, I found her standing outside Grandma's house. Her makeup was smeared, her once flawless hair unkempt, and her voice cracked when she spoke. "You don't deserve any of this," she hissed, her eyes wild. "You were nothing but her pet project. I was supposed to be the heir. The legacy. Not you." I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the flawless cousin I had feared for years, but a bitter woman unraveling under the weight of her own lies. "Grandma made her choice," I said softly. "And now you're living with yours." She flinched, like the words stung deeper than a slap. Then she turned and stormed down the street, heels clattering, shoulders shaking. That was the last time she ever came near the house. Over the months, her downfall grew complete. She lost her job. Her reputation crumbled. Even her so-called friends stopped taking her calls. Every time she tried to claw her way back, Grandma's video resurfaced, a ghostly reminder of what she had done. And that, I realized, was the true brilliance of Grandma's revenge. It wasn't just about exposing Veronica in one dramatic moment. It was about making sure the lesson lasted. About ensuring that every door she knocked on for the rest of her life would slam in her face with the memory of pearls clattering on a table and a voice from beyond the grave calling her out. Justice didn't end at the will reading. It followed Veronica like a shadow she could never escape. And me? I lived quietly, contentedly, in the house that smelled of cinnamon and roses, carrying forward the love Grandma had built with her life. Every time I baked a loaf of bread or planted a flower in her garden, I felt her presence close, proud, unwavering. Her wealth wasn't just measured in money or property. It was in the legacy of strength she left me and the perfect revenge she delivered with it.